E ora nós está começar. Nós temos o tema de understanding the basics of gender identity. É tema hobby broad. E a minha intenção tá para trazer vamos break it down tiki e trazer primeiro encontro com o tema aqui. Dus minha intenção também não tá para estar aqui the last one, pero mais bem para abrir curiosidade e ganas para seguir sim, e portanto nós podemos criar mais espaço, né? Já seja em persona também, of por outro espaço, né? Nos por mirar esse aí. Eu agora me tá comissão tiki para pessoas que não conhecem me, me tá tem tiki de mi aqui não, meu nome tá Cynthia Quant, me estudo psicologia, me tá psicólogo de profissão, me estudo na Costa Rica, já 3 anos e meio quase que na Aruba back, me tá atualmente em minha journey com mi masters. My master's studying interdisciplinary intervention in gender-based violence com Universidade Online na Espanha e atualmente me tá senior GBV officer na Hayes Aruba. Me coordena e me tá complementar o trabalho que eu estou fazendo, me studying response e prevention de GBV, de gender-based violence. E a parte disso, me tá apoiar também o projeto de Shoco Wellness como de counselors, né? Dus, seita algo que também recentemente me tá parte disso. Me tá muito contente também para o projeto tá muito bonito e é importante. E sabe que tiki de a nível profissional e de minha carreira, pero também me tá feminist by heart, na pone assim, né? Comecei journey aqui, danke na teacher, danke na vrouw, e danke na jema mahaya glas na violeta nang que te permite me o mundo desde maneira aqui, desde perspectiva de gênero e tá constante aprendizagem, não? Desde aí também me quer me tá compartilhar com você e isso não quer seguir, quer join vamos dizer, movimento aqui diz de discussão, diz de papo, diz de, seja, na final a intenção de estar aqui para nós portar mundo mais igualitário, mais respectful ante a diversidade. So, without further ado, me tá dando começo agora oficialmente na workshop. Me tá começar com 3 conceitos nan aqui. Understanding basic concepts.
Excuse me, Cynthia,
yes?
if I may interrupt you, we have one non-papiamento speaker. So could you switch to English?
Sure.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So then I'll go to English, and if anything, if I do mention something in papiamento, sorry, I will get back and change it. But let's do this. So as I was saying, we're going to start with some understanding of basic concepts that will help us through this journey. We need this understanding of these 3 specific concepts so we can go and continue open more doors and windows in this journey. So let me see. So it's going to be sex, gender, and sexual orientation. All right. So sex, let's start with the definition of sex. When we're talking about sex, it's basically we're speaking about the biological characteristics of a person. The anatomic, it describes the anatomic, as it says here, anatomic and physiological characteristics. And we are seeing, it's what we can see from the outside, the genitals, the sexual reproductive organs of a person. So it is a sign at birth, but we can now, with ultrasounds and everything, we can already see the sex of the baby, right? We have this new technology that permits us to see this. And it's basically seen as if a person has a penis, has a vagina, or a vulva is what you see, or is this person an intersex? This is also a new term that sometimes we don't really use. But a person intersex, an intersex person, is a person who has both genitals. We don't talk really about it that much, because usually what happens at birth is that the doctors, together with the parents, make a decision, and they do a surgery. And that's why we don't really talk that much, or we don't really see people. But there are people who still they continue, they were born like that, and they stay that like that. So it's important. So we're talking about a penis, a vagina, or intersex. And there we get the notion. We use the word like female and male. We usually, that's what this like society has those are the concepts that the society has giving us to describe a person with a penis, male, and a person with a vagina or with a vulva, female, right? So I hope this is clear, that what is sex, or what we refer to as sex. We will continue to see this interaction between sex and gender, but I really want to make this small description so we can continue. Then we have gender. So what is gender? Gender is a social construct. Gender is socially constructed, and it has an impact with culture. Culture has a big impact on this. It includes, as it says there, the norms, the behaviors and roles associated with what it is to be a man, what it is to be a boy, what it is to be a woman or a girl. And you can see here in the picture, I illustrated, you can see, for example, we assign, if it's a boy, we put like blue. If it's a girl, we put pink. And you can see here also like the roles and how they're supposed to behave, right? We know, okay, how does a man behave? Oh, if I ask that question, people, I think they will say, oh, it's this and this. We're gonna get like a same reactions when I ask how a man reacts, and also how a woman reacts, and what are the roles in the community, what it's expected from them. In the picture you see, it's, if I ask, is this traditionally what a man does, or traditionally what are the roles that like a woman does? It's not really like that, right? It's inverted here. Most of the time women are expected to be in the kitchen, or to be to take care of the kids, and men are the providers. They're supposed to go outside, get to work and be a provider, and be the man of the house. So we have assigned these roles, these behaviors, these norms to what it is to be a woman, or what it is to be a man. Okay, so it has more a component of, it's constructed socially. It's not like you're born with it, like the sex you are born with it, gender not. Okay, but as I mentioned, we will continue to discuss this. Okay, so I will go to the third concept, that is sexual orientation. Sexual orientation, as I mentioned here, an enduring pattern of emotional, romantic, and or sexual attraction. Is the attraction you feel to another person. It could be romantically, it could be sexually. It doesn't really, it's not like only sexual, only romantic, it could be all. But it's important for us just to add that it could be only romantically, or it could be only sexual. So it's really a diverse way of seeing it. But sexual orientation is the attraction, the feeling, the emotional attraction, the romantically attraction, the sexually attraction that you have towards another person. Okay, so now we are seeing these three concepts, that there are different concepts, And now, how do they interact with each other? How are these three concepts interact with each other? Because we normally blend them or we mix one with another one. So to discover this, I'm gonna put this slide, and let's see the links. Let's start seeing the links between these three concepts. When we're talking about history, like a time period, a moment in time, in time. If we're seeing, for example, if we're in 1900s, okay, 1900s, we're in 1995. If we're in 2020, if we're in 2022, if we're talking about sex, you're always gonna see the same thing. You're gonna see a person either with a penis, either with a vagina or a vulva, or a person intersex. It didn't change. It didn't change. We, no matter where we are in time, it's the same. But if we're talking about gender, it's different. It's not the same being a woman or being a man in the 1930s and what is expected from them there, or where of what they wear. Even if we see the picture, this is a in the 1930s, and you see, for example, the picture in the middle, you see how we dress differently. It didn't stay the same. It changes throughout time because it's constructed, and it has the impact of the culture. So here we see, okay, we have sex and we have gender, and we're talking about a moment in time, and we see the difference. So it's not the same. And now, for example, if we're talking about the geographical location where we are, it's not the same being a man or being a woman in all the countries. And here you have the example of a person in with a skirt, a man with a skirt. In Scotland, in how do you say that? Yeah, I think, and we all know, yeah, in Scotland, it's really known that men use skirts. It's socially accepted because it's associated with their gender. Okay, so you see that, okay, if you're in Scotland, it's okay for a man to wear a skirt. But if I ask, here in Aruba, is it really common that we see men in skirt? No, it's not common. So it differentiates where we are. But if we're talking then about sex, if I'm in China, if I'm talking about sex, if I'm in China, I'm gonna find a person with a penis, with a vagina or a vulva, and or intersex. Okay, so we are seeing how we usually associate these terms together, but they're different, and their expression is different. And then that's why it's important also to know this history, to know what has changed and how it changed, how we got. Now you can see women wearing jeans or wearing clothing that wasn't really associated with being a woman. And what are men wearing right now? Okay, and that I'm just talking about the clothing, not even the norms and the roles that women had, or men had, or they have right now. So are we seeing the connection? Are we seeing how it interacts with each other and in time, and how sometimes we tend to connect? And we're gonna now to add with sexual orientation. What a clear example. What we normally or we tend to do is we see a person, for example, this man with a skirt, and we automatically think, oh, he might be gay, or for sure he's gay. So based on what he's wearing, we already make an assumption of his sexual orientation. So every time these three concepts we interlink with each other, we continuously interlink with each other, and we see this person, we see, okay, this person has this sex, and then this person gender is this. Oh, okay, and it does not fit what the normative is from society. Then we make an assumption, this is not a real man, or this is not a real woman. Okay, so it's important for us to have this space to reflect on it, to make, some reflections on how we also tend to make automatically these connections, but there are different things. And each individual goes by, his or hers of their journey on their sex, their genitals, what they are born with, what they are assigned in when they come into this world and they make this contact with society and the culture and their families and the community, what it's expected from them, and then their sexual orientation, because they also have a journey in their sexual orientation. Who do they like? Who they feel attracted to? So there are three different things, and it's important to have a space to explore each one of them and see, okay, how can I interact with this? How can I interact with this in a way that I'm not going to do harm? Okay, so I hope that we're getting there. We're getting there. And if anything, please feel free to write it or write it on the site, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so now that we have this sex, gender, sexual orientation, now we're gonna go to another level. We're gonna get a little bit more deeper, okay? So we're gonna talk about the gender identity, okay? Because gender, we can talk about gender in different areas, in legal, politics, but now we're gonna talk about gender identity. And gender identity is basically the concept that you have about yourself, how you identify yourself. So if you see in the picture, for example, you can see it's like linked to the brain. It's how I see myself, for example, in the mirror, and I'm like, how I feel, what is happening inside. If a person says, someone tells me, Cynthia, you're a woman, how I'm gonna react on that? Do I feel like a woman? Do I feel what is expressed out there that it's a woman? Or if someone tells me, hey, Cynthia, you're a man, how am I gonna react to that? How am I gonna react to the concept of being a man? Okay, so it's really gender identity is really personal. It's really personal. Each person goes through this journey of finding who they are. Okay, not based on their sex, no? Because their sex, yeah, they were born with that genital and that, but this is the gender identity. You are building this because you're interacting with society, with cultures, and you take on what for you is gonna is make that makes sense. Okay, so here you can see, and I leave the definition there, so you can there's a lot of definitions, but it's important to see it's deeply how you feel, how you identify yourself. And we're gonna discuss this a little bit more, and I'm show you some examples on this, because that could also make it a little bit more clear. But I just want for now for you to understand that it's how you identify yourself. Okay, it's how it's inside. That's why it's like in the brain, the connection that you make, and sometimes that connection it aligns, it associate with the sex that you're born, and sometimes not. And how we're gonna deal with that. Okay, so that's a little bit of the gender identity that we will continue to discuss shortly. So now we have the gender expression. Gender expression, now we're gonna go to the outside. If I'm just gonna go to the other slide back. If you can see here the gender expression on the cookie, it's like all what's outside. Okay, so now, having said that, it's what you see. So characteristics in a person. Okay, appearance, personality, the behavior. It is how you express yourself to the world. We're talking about gender identity. It's personal. It's with me. Now just this gender expression is me with the world, how the world is gonna see me, how I'm gonna interact with this world, with the people around me. Okay. And sometimes I'm gonna be aligned with what is expected of me. So if I was born with a penis, and I identify myself as male, or and then my expression is gonna be, very what is masculine. So I'll be wearing jeans, and I'll be wearing, t-shirts, and I'm gonna have my hair cut, really short, and I'm gonna have a deep voice and talk like this, and I'm gonna behave like tough, because that is what is associated with being masculine. Okay. But not necessary being masculine means being a man, being that I have to be like this. It's an expression. It's an expression. Okay. So here we are again, and I talk a lot about feminine or masculine, or being a woman and a man, and I'm gonna tell you why, because it's what we know that is the norm. No, the binary. We live into the binary, and you can see that word over there also. No, binary means the like two. So we're talking about either it's a woman or it's a man. Okay, we're not even outside of that. We're still in that. Here I did put some words on androgynous or gender neutral, because there's some other ways to express your gender. It's not only feminine or masculine. It could be the combination of both, or it could be none of them. None of those two. It could be other. But we are known that there's only two ways: masculine or feminine. That's the only way you can. And if you're born with a penis, you have to be masculine. You have to express it also like that. So here we are interacting with these concepts, to seeing how they fit together or do not fit together. So remember, it's a journey. It's a journey. It's new things. We're still it's not, let me rephrase this. It's not that is new for the world. It's just that now we're using words to describe it. We're making it visible. We're putting it on the table. It's not like it didn't exist before, but now we're really more aware of it, and we are giving it its place, so we can discuss it and do it more, respectful and more kind. So just to make again, as I mentioned, the androgynous is the combination. So sometimes you see a person and people will say, well, I'm not sure, is this person a girl or a boy? Is this, I don't know if you have encountered that, but and people really, they're like, what is this person? It's, remember, being expressing yourself, it's really personal, and it's important to understand this. Okay, so now we have discussed sex, gender, sexual orientation. We have go a little bit deeper into gender and have talked about gender identity and gender expression. Okay, so now, having said this, understanding, we enter this understanding the diversity, because there is a diversity. Okay, and we know this LG. I think maybe many of you have heard the LGBTQI plus community, and all the movement and everything that is being done for many years now, and little by little we're hearing it more. No, I put the definitions here. The L stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender or transsexual, queer, intersex or intersexual, and asexual. And the plus, it's for the many others, because they're much more than this. Okay, there's much more than this, and we will have also a glimpse a little bit more into it. But it's important for us to recognize it. Okay, so I'm putting it here to open this other part of the workshop, to to understand why we're doing this. And that's, we're not talking only about your sex, because here you see intersexual. We're not talking about only sex. We're not talking only about gender identity, as we see here, transgender or queer, or we're not talking only about gender also. And we also have included the sexual orientation. We have lesbian, gay, bisexual. So it's not only the movement for the gays or movement for homosexuals, or it's uniting people who are put aside, who are put, who are being discriminated, and it's a union of all of them, and why it's necessary to make it visible. So just again, the LGBT community is not only about sexual orientation. It's much more than that. It includes gender identity. It includes even the sex. Okay? So let's continue. Let's get a little bit more into it, the diversity of gender identities. Okay? As I mentioned before, now we're gonna go a little bit into it and get some examples. These are not all of them. There are a lot of gender identities, and that's the beauty of diversity. But I choose a few so we can, start this conversation, and remember that not everything is set on stone. We still are learning. We are learning. So please, if you have any other definitions, please share it with us, because that will be really helpful for us to share information together and learn and grow. Okay, so I'm going to start with cisgender. Cisgender is a person whose gender identity is commonly, it's the same as what we commonly associate with the sex. So at birth. So I'm going to give an example. Is a person who is born with a penis and his identity is male. Okay? Or is a person who is born with a vagina and her identity is female. So it's what we commonly know. Okay? Cisgender is just what we commonly know as a man and a woman. All right? Now, when we get into transgender, then if we see the definition, is a person with a gender identity that differs from that commonly associated with their sex assigned at birth. So let's just put an idea. It's a person, for example, that is born with a penis, but identify herself as a woman. Okay? So then you see the difference that between the sex and the gender. All right? And you can have it the other way around. And here I'm gonna add something extra. That is, we heard the terms transgender, but there's also transsexual. And a transsexual person is a person who already went through the journey of transitioning, of going to the sex reassignment, I think it's called. And they go through that journey. So it's not only hormonal or just from the expression of living into that gender, but it's also surgery. So it's changing that sex that this person was born with, okay, to make it more aligned to how they feel and how they identify themselves. Okay, so we have, for example, we have two examples here just for us, to get it a little bit more of an idea. We have an example of the F to M is female to male, and the M to F is male to female. I put an example here, for example, of Elliot Page. I think maybe some of you know him. He made his transition very recent, and now you can, it's also a way of making it more visible to others, no, and representing. And you can also see, for example, Caitlyn Jenner, who went from male to female. Okay, so there's much more people, but it's important, and I didn't put the how the before and after, let's say, because it's respectful for the person to, so you know, acknowledge how they feel now and how they identify now. So that's why you can see now Elliot and Caitlin. Okay. So having said these two, remember cisgender, transgender. Cisgender, it aligns with the sex assigned at birth, and transgender, it does not align. It differs from it. Okay. And now we're gonna go into 5 other gender identities. Remember, there are much more than this, but we need to start, you know, we're gonna start with a few, and then we can go more and more and more, because it's important. It's everyone counts. So it's different sometimes to decide, you know, to put a few, but and I don't want to leave anyone behind, but it's just for us, for the matter of the workshop, you know, and time, we're gonna start with these ones. So we have the gender non-binary. So it's a person whose gender identity does not fully fall along the gender binary of being a girl, a woman, or a boy, or a man. Okay, so it does not fall into that binary category that is just female or just male or just woman or just man. Okay, so when a person does not identify, does not, it, remember remember the picture, the cookie, the brain. When the person hears, you know, I'm a woman or I'm a man, it doesn't sound right. So then the person could choose to, you know, use the term gender non-binary. Okay, we have also persons who feel, you know, identify with a combination of both of them, you know, with being male and female. Then this person is a bigender, or could identify him, her, him, they as bigender. Okay, so do we see the connection between these two? One identified with none of those binaries, and a person by gender with, could be with a combination of both. We have a person gender fluid. Person who identifies as gender fluid is a person whose gender identity and the expressions, remember, gender identity, gender expression, it could change frequently. So it goes like it's a it from one to another one, and it's not really static. And this person feels comfortable identifying as gender fluid. So it's something that exists. It's a term that exists, and it's important to see this, again, diversity, the diversity that exists. We have a person that identifies as gender questioning. Gender questioning, as it mentioned there, a person who is in process of discovery and exploration about the gender, because we are not born with it. We are constantly, you know, discovering it, discovering how we identify ourselves. So maybe a person in that process could, you know, feel comfortable saying, you know, I'm identify as gender questioning. And it goes into time, and you explore it. Remember, it's not something static. So it's okay. We go through it. And then as last one, for gender identities, we have a person pangender. And the definition says it's a person that identifies as all or many genders. So as we know, because there's not one gender, this person feels, you know, comfortable saying, you know, I feel like I identify myself as all genders. And it's okay. Okay. So I know sometimes, you know, it could make like, whoa, but how is this? And remember that it's something really individual. It's something personal. It's something personal, and not everybody goes by it the same, and not everybody gives it the same definition. Each person does, you know, puts its own little experience into it. And it's important for us to understand this, and hopefully get to the point. And it's really important to respect it. Okay, I know acceptance, it's a little bit, you know, it's a concept that we have to, but respect, we're talking here about respect, human rights. So it's important, just again, to see that there's much more that we we have learned, that they have teach us. Okay. So here I am gonna go now. So this is a diversity of a few gender identities. Remember, there's much more than this. Now we're gonna go into the diversity of sexual orientation. Okay. So we know sex again. I'm doing this connection again because it's important. Okay. Sex, we know, okay, a person, man, woman, because we assign it at the penis, vagina, or intersex. We talk about gender identities and different gender identities. And now we're going to talk the diversity of sexual orientation. So we're going to get a view of a few sexual orientations. There's much more than this also. Okay, it's important to make that clear. So let's start with what we usually know, what we have thought that it's the norm again, is heterosexuality. Okay, a person who feels an emotional, romantic, and or sexual attraction to a person of the opposite sex. Okay, that is what, when we started it way back, when we started to discuss about sexuality, we were only speaking about the sex. Okay, the part from gender wasn't really in it still. So we're gonna see the difference here, and why I put this like this. Okay, and it could make a lot of conversation, and I would love to continue on. Okay, so is heterosexual clear? A person who feels an emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to a person of the opposite sex. So what we traditionally known as a man being in love or feeling attracted to a woman, or a woman feeling attracted to a man. Okay, that's that. Then we have what we known as homosexual. That word was really, we really use that word a lot, heterosexual and homosexual. But now some people use it, some people don't use it anymore, but still, for this matter, we're gonna refer it to it as homosexual, and as a person who feels an emotional, romantic, and or sexual attraction to a person of the same sex. Okay, so these two were the ones who way back in the 19 something we started talking about this, and it was a taboo to talk about homosexuality, but we get an understanding the difference between heterosexual and homosexual, right? And they used to also like connect with homosexuality. If it was two men, then we used the word gay, and if it was two women, then we used to it's lesbian. It's a lesbian relationship. So in the homosexuality, they use these two concepts. Again, we are changing, we are learning, we are still exploring. But I put it like this again, just to make a clear first interaction with the concepts. Then we go to bisexual. So a few days later, when we already, okay, homosexuality, boom, we heard about bisexuality. Okay, and what is that now? I already, okay, same sex, and oh, now two, you can love both of them, or so this discussion started, and bisexual was introduced, and first we thought it's oh, a person feels an emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to both sexes. Okay, because we were linking it to sex. Now little by little we're learning more, and if you look for more definitions, they're gonna say it's two or more genders. So they're already including genders in there. But again, to start with this, I'm gonna leave it with this definition, that is a person who feels attracted to both sexes. Okay, so do we see the connection between these three? And we see also the differences between these three. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and we're going to introduce maybe to some new sexual orientation. We might have heard of it, maybe not, but it's important also to recognize it. We have more than this. Okay, we have more sexual orientations, but again, I'm mentioning a few. We have a person who who is polysexual, okay, is a person who is sexually and or romantically attracted to multiple genders, okay? But there is an exception here. It's said that this person, okay, feels attracted to multiple genders, but except cisgender. So do we recall what is cisgender? It's a person who has, for example, it's a person who has a penis and his gender identity is male, okay? So polysexual, a person who's sexually or romantically attracted to multiple genders, all right? Then we have pansexual. Here, sometimes we can confuse these terms because it kind of looks alike, but there are differences. A person who who has a sexual orientation that is pansexual, it's a person who feels attracted to another person regardless of their gender. So sometimes we use the term gender blind because they don't see the gender in the person. If we see back to the polysexual recognize the genders. It recognizes the gender, and that's why it feels attracted to the multiple genders. But pansexual does not see, it's regardless of their gender. Okay? Then we have demisexual. Demisexual, it's a sexual attraction or romantically attraction that only occurs when there's under specific circumstances, and it's usually after developing a very strong bond. So this person, for they to feel attracted to a person, it has to have a bond. First, they have to have a bond, and then they can be in a relationship or feel attracted to this person. So there are differences. And the other one is asexual, is a person that has a sexual orientation as asexual, is a person who does not experience sexual attraction to other people. But this does not mean that the person cannot still feel romantically attracted to other people. So linking back again at the beginning that I said that it could be sexual, it could be romantic, it's important because now it makes sense here. It connects with a person asexual. So you see, it's this connection again with others and how I see other people and how I can feel attracted or do not feel attracted to the persons around me. And as I mentioned, there's a lot more, and it's really important to understand this because sexuality it's something broad. It's something broad, and we are giving names and we are making it visible. Giving it names makes it visible that it exists, and it's not something weird or it's not something bad. It's just diversity. All right, it's just diversity, and it's important for people to understand this because when we try to put it aside and we try to say like it does not exist, it could make a lot of harm. All right, so we have talked about the diversity of the gender identities, and we have had a few encounters with a few of them, and now we have talked about the diversity of sexual orientation and also some contact with a few of them. So now to start closing and connecting, it's important to see some issues that might come because we have talked, oh, it's this and this and this, but in the reality that we're living, it's not just okay, I identify and now I know who I am, and now I know who I like, and now it's not that easy. There's really big situations that are happening in the world, and even though we are making some progress, because we are making, and it's important to recognize that there's some issues that we really have to take care of. So one of them is same-sex marriage. In some countries, and even here in Aruba, it's not really possible. And we now connect this with, hey, human rights and equal rights and everything. So it's getting, we have politics, and we have, even if we're going to talk about the hormone therapy, we have the health system here also. So it's a lot of components. It's not just someone in their house living with and trying to figure out. It's much more from the micro that we think it is. It's how this person is going to interact with macro level, with society, with laws and government and policies. So it's important to understand that it's bigger. So I pointed a few here, like the same-sex marriage, adoption, because in some countries it's not possible for a couple, same-sex couple, to adopt. Or restroom rights. This is particularly for people, for trans people. It's really difficult. Imagine you're here, this person goes through the transition, and now which bathroom should I enter, and people not letting them, so they can, even to go to a bathroom, they cannot feel comfortable. And they have, make like gender neutral restrooms, and I have seen, or inclusive restrooms, and I have seen it at universities or different places. So it's starting to see that it's important to discuss this, because there are those little things that makes really a difference. I mentioned here also the hormone therapy, and it's specifically also again for trans people, being able to access it, because it's not just, they need, it's important for their lives. It's living who they are, and not having access to that makes it really difficult. And you can see rates of suicide. And so it's something we have to talk about. We cannot just leave it, on the side. Oh, maybe another year, or this is not important in the agenda. No, people are dying, and people are living really really hard situations. And that's why it's important to, again, we have to discuss about this, and we have to see what we have in our country, what policies, what is happening. And of course, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, it's really the hate crimes. People are dying in countries. They take you, they put you in jail, they kill you, it's horrible what is happening. And we cannot say that, oh, yeah, we have the right to live a life that we can feel safe, that we can be ourselves. So please, just this is just something to think about it. And it connects, if I might say, it connects beautifully, because yesterday was International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Transphobia. So we are in this week. So the workshop, it just felt in the same week, and I think it was meant to be, because we it's important to, so we can make it visible, bring awareness on these topics. These are of human beings that feel, they have feelings, they want to have a family. Maybe they want to have a family, they want to be loved, it's much more than just they do not know what they want, or they are confused. Okay, it's really harmful to say those things. So now, seeing a little, some of the issues that exist, and making this space for you, each one of you, to reflect on this. And there are much more, but again, I leave this space also for you to research more. And if you want to discuss it, we can sure sit and discuss it. So now let's see. We have seen the issues. So there's some things we can do. Each one of us can support. So let's talk on how to support. How can we be part of the change? First, do not assume a person's gender identity or a person's sexual orientation based on how they're expressing their gender. Because remember, gender identity and gender expression are two different things. Because normally what we do, we see, for example, I put here Harry Styles and the BTS group, and we see, oh, he's wearing earrings, his clothing looks like, you know, what women wears. Maybe he's is he trans, or is he gay? Or we have to really think about that. Why do we feel the need to know? Why do we feel the need to know? Are you going to each person, are you a woman, are you a man, are you? No, we don't usually do that. If we want to do it based on, we want to be more respectful of the person, and we want to know, you know, how to support them, then we could ask. And maybe the person is going to respond to us, and maybe not. But it's something that we have to think. The first thing, do not assume, because we tend to do that a lot. And even more with the LGBT community, we see LGBT, or we see a person with the rainbow flag, and we're like, oh, this person is this. We don't know. Okay. And we have to give the person the respect of, you know, being themselves and wanting to share or not. So other things we can do is, as I mentioned, respect how the person identifies themselves. Because maybe the person could, the pronouns, if we're talking here, we're talking about pronouns, the person could identify and use the pronouns she, or maybe it's he. And there's also people who use they, because they don't feel identified with when they hear she or he, so they use they. So we can ask, this is something, you know, of course, each person is different. So sometimes people are ready to say it, and people might not. For example, if I talk about myself, in my email, my email, I have pronouns, and you can see she, her, hers. So when someone replied to me, they know, oh, they know what's my pronoun. So I'm already saying it, and I feel comfortable saying it. But not everybody has the same experience. So we can always ask, but we have to respect also if the person does not want to share. Okay? So remember, if we're asking, let's think about it first. If we're asking based on we want to support, or is it something that is gonna not give any, you know, extra value to that asking. Okay, so just be careful with this. Be careful, be respectful. Respect the person's privacy. So this connects again. If the person does not want to reveal or to talk about it, respect it, because we don't know why this person is doing that. Maybe it's for safety. We don't know who's around. We have heard about the, as I mentioned, hate crimes and like homophobia. So sometimes people don't feel comfortable talking about it because they don't feel safe. It's the reality that we're living. So it's on us also to provide those safe spaces to discuss this, to talk about this, so the person could feel comfortable. And if the person decides to reveal it or to say it to us, it's based on, I'm looking for support, and can you support me? Okay. So just again, to be clear on this. And constant introspection, own beliefs, what I'm thinking, what are the things that I have learned and I'm taking on with me. Please, you know, when you have a time, just reflect on this. Or if you have a person that you can talk about this, and you have some questions and you want to know, you know, it's good to know. But remember your own beliefs. Sometimes we say things and we don't know who's around us. We don't know if we're doing harm. So be careful on how we speak, and let's try to be more respectful of the diversity, and more, you know, in connection with people, and open to learning. And if we're not ready for that, it's okay. It's okay. We have to respect each person's time, but just, you know, let's not do harm. All right. And lastly, I wanted to also say that a way that we can support is advocating. It's advocating, it's speaking, and connecting back what we said first about, is it going to be about same-sex marriage, or the restroom rights, or we're going to talk about adoption, or advocating whatever you feel connected with, and you see that there's a way you can support. Do it. And it starts with you, each one of us. This starts with each one of us. If we start, you know, making these I'm talking about this, having these spaces to discuss and learn, it's already gonna make a difference. And I put this also over here, the Gay Straight Alliance that his has, it's like a, I know that in some schools they have it, because it could be a student-led project, or it could be also from the community. The organization could have these safe spaces for LGBTQ members. I heard that Colegio Arubano had a Gay Straight Alliance group, but I'm not sure if it's still active. But it's really nice because you're providing safe spaces for students, or for example, high school students, middle school students, university students. So having these spaces in schools, it's really important, because you are making sure that you have safe spaces for the LGBT community, and spaces that they can learn and interact, and most of, if I'm not mistaken, teachers are like guiding the students in this. So you can be, if you're a teacher and you want to, explore more about this or talk more about this, we can, for surely, if any support, we can sit together and discuss it, because it's really important. And I'm really glad that they are making other ways, they are bringing new things to the table, so we can support better, because we're still learning. So we are still like in pampers and trying to figure out, but it's important to continue, because if we don't continue, if we leave it like that, then nothing is going to change, and people are gonna be suffer and suffer the consequences of we not talking about this. So that was it. I really appreciate everybody that is here.